The things they had in there were crazy. They had things, levels of voting that if you ever agreed to it, you'd never have a Republican elected in this country again. They had things in there about, election days and what you do and all sorts of clawbacks. And they had things that were just totally crazy.
Did you hear that? What do you think the president actually meant when he was saying that? A lot of people reading into this, President Trump seeming to suggest, according to some, that these voting changes and voter access rules would make it harder for Republicans to win election in the future. President Trump also told Fox News that the provisions for voting in the coronavirus bill, as you heard, there were crazy. That suddenly left-leaning outlets we were talking about and reporters quickly seized on this and said the president is trying to suppress voting. Salon, Mother Jones, and a Washington Post reporter all said that President Trump, as you heard there, admitted voting access would hurt the GOP in future elections. Were those comments taken out of context? Let's welcome in our political panel to talk more about this. Former Special Assistant to President Trump, Kelly Sadler, is with us. Also Democratic strategist and former Obama advisor, Lori Watkins. Great to see you both. Thanks for coming back on.
Thanks for having us, John.
All right, so Kelly, what is wrong with making sure everybody has access to the right to vote, the franchise? We're all in favor of that, right?
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. I think that what you're seeing here is the move, especially with the coronavirus, to do mail-in ballots only. And you're seeing the delay of the primaries. And the problem with that is that there's a lot of voter fraud that's associated with mail-in ballots. And only 6 states in the country right now, and they're all Western states, allow for county-wide, statewide mail-in ballots. So with the signatures not matching up, not knowing if your vote's going to be counted, all of the stuff that happens on the back end, there's a lot of ways that your vote won't count through these mail-in ballot initiatives, especially if they want to rush them and make that, what Biden suggested the other day, make that the norm come November.
Well, we'll hear from Joe Biden in just a second, but I want to get Lori's response to that real quickly.
So the bottom line is allowing more people to participate in the process legally will hurt the president's party because there are more Democratic-leaning voters in the country. I'll go back to what Kelly said, though, about some of these restrictions that the president's calling out voter fraud. The Brennan Center does not actually call for a overall vote by mail program. Here in the state of Florida, we do not want just absentee or vote by mail. We want to also expand the wonderful, successful program that we have here for early voting. We want to expand that from 14 to 22 days. And these are and have safe, reliable, open centers where people can submit those and turn in those ballots if they should still want to, or because of their situation, they cannot mail in a ballot, or they don't trust the process themselves, that they want to hand in that ballot themselves, that they have that option. But to have fair, safe, honest, open elections, that is what the Democratic Party and I think all Americans should be calling for.
Let's listen to Joe Biden. Kelly mentioned this before. Here he is talking about it.
We may get there, Chuck. I don't want to go that far ahead, but that is possible. I think we should be looking to all mail ballots across the board to begin with, because it's an easier way for people to vote. But whether or not that's required across the board in all 50 states and territories, I'm not sure yet. I think we can make that, but we should be beginning to plan that in each of our states.
So as we're planning for the possibility of this, Kelly, how do we prevent all these dead people who are going to get ballots, or people who no longer live at the prior addresses from getting ballots? The ballot harvesting. Democrats should also be worried about this. If folks remember, not too long ago in North Carolina, there was an issue with Republicans doing ballot harvesting there as well. So we have some real things to worry about here when it comes to making sure this election is valid.
I mean, absolutely. And I think that's where the Republicans' concern is. I mean, it took the state of Washington 5 years to get their system of mail-in ballots up and working and, fraud-proof. That's 5 years. We have some Democrats right now calling for all states to do it by the November election, and that's just impossible. It takes training. Again, with the signatures validation, a lot of these votes aren't counted and they're just missed, and a lot of people are said, I cast my ballot, but it was never counted. And then there's all of these problems on the back end. So we need to make sure that the states have have the resources in order to do this and to do this properly. You see the state of Wisconsin, for example, they decided not to delay their primary. And part of the reason is because they didn't have the paper and the envelopes. They didn't have enough of them to send out to the residents to do a proper mail-in ballot. It's not just, you can't just go to FedEx to do this. You need to have the proper resources and make sure every vote counts.
We got to figure it out.
And I'd like to jump in here if I can, John. And that's why it's really important that right now there is a state of emergency, and all the governors across this nation should be activating those reserves that they can, just like Governor DeSantis in the state of Florida, because we are under a state of emergency, that he can activate those funds and resources to put into. They're already there.
We got to make sure
he can do it.
That this is above board completely and that everybody agrees it's done in a transparent way. That's the key here. We got to run. Unfortunately, we're out of time.
Absolutely. Voter protection.
We all agree on that. Yeah. Kelly Laureate, great to see you. We'll see you next time.
Hey, thanks, John.
We'll be right back after this.